We do have confirmation of the proper meeting notice. First order of business will be to approve the meeting minutes of January 8th, 2025.
I move that we accept the minutes from the January meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. First order will be the Treasury's report. Todd?
Okay, so I'm assuming that Lake Disease 2024 net income for the year ended at a near zero loss of $2,658. That's on a budget of over $3 million. So the intent of a not-for-profit is not to make money and not to lose money. It's to come in as close to zero as you can. And I can honestly say this is the closest we've ever come to zero. So some of the positive financial events for the year include we made a lot higher interest income and our insurance costs were far lower than we had planned. So the board utilized a lot of that surplus for community improvements, including new air conditioners for this building and the activity building, the tunnel and trees trail, and the sidewalk connectors you see at both the bocce and the shuffleboard courts. Then Hurricane Milton hit, and we stopped spending the surplus because we knew there wouldn't be one. We spent over $70,000 on the cleanup of Hurricane Milton. So, but we were able to do that and all of the improvements within our budget. So I feel real good about that. I will be doing a more detailed review of the 2024 results at our annual meeting on March 4th. Thanks.
Thank you. Manager's report.
Okay, so just a few items. We have phase 1 and 4 road resurfacing. We'll have our pre-construction meeting later this month, probably like the 28th or 27th. We'll be meeting with the engineer and contractor, going over the timeline for the project. And once we get all that together, we'll make sure we notify all the residents, show maps of where they'll be working on what dates, make sure everybody's aware of what's going on. They'll have traffic control like they did last time, so it should go pretty smooth. The bocce courts, we're working on getting the bumpers replaced, but we ran into an issue with the contractor where they came out to actually start the work and get the materials ordered. And turns out if we rebuild them the same way the newer ones are, there's going to be a gap on each side of about 2 inches. So they're saying we need to replace the turf as well, which I got a bid from them, and it was around $3,700 to do that. So now that's our second change order from this contractor. So I reached out to a couple, or Matt reached out to a couple other ones. We should be meeting with them this week. So hopefully my plan is to have that change order plus the 2 other bids at the February meeting so we can decide what the best path is. We either stick with 90 or we go to a new contractor. And then the 2025 directory, we got a rough draft of that actually this morning. So we're making sure that's accurate, and then we'll send it back to the printer. We're hoping to be able to distribute those in mid-February, March. And then the pickleball court and tennis court fencing, we got all that repaired. That turned out pretty good. We actually added some reinforcement, so hopefully next time we won't have issues. We've also worked with some of the people in the courts. We have a plan for removing those nets to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. But the biggest issue, like especially with the tennis court, was that practice board. It's really, really heavy, and it's obviously a big target for wind. So we added a lot more reinforcement to that because we can't take that down. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. President's report, just a quick update. I know we've been waiting forever for the dock. I'm promising it's coming. The big holdup right now is the permitting from Lake County. We've had our stuff into them forever, and we're just waiting for that to come back to us or back to the contractor. As soon as that happens, I know he's ready to go, and hope we'll be able to fit us into the schedule right away, keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah, and the contractor went down to the office, Lake County office yesterday to try and get an update from them, but they're still behind. So
yeah. Yeah, I know they're also hiring people from the outside to help them catch up, but obviously with all the construction, it's crazy. Also, we're here today because we're really excited and hopeful this building project moves forward. It's been a long time coming for a lot of you, more so even than me, because a lot of you have lived here for many years. After the board selects a contractor and sets the budget for the project, we are going to have 2 town hall meetings. That'll be the opportunity for us to go through everything further with you, a little bit more detail of the budget and everything where the money's coming from. And in addition to that, that'll be your opportunity to ask questions prior to this going out to vote. The first one will be on the 28th next week at 6 p.m. because believe it or not, we still have people that work that live in here. So we're making sure we have everybody that opportunity. And then the final will be on the 31st of January at 10 a.m. And notices and reminders will be sent out by the CAM office and everything will be posted on the site. Also, remember ballots will be going out soon. Remember that you are voting for 2 things. One item is, of course, you have 4 director seats that will be open. So that will be one of the items you'll be voting for. And then the second will be, of course, approving or voting to approve or disapprove the building renovation project. So please make sure you look for that. You will be seeing this come from Tie Vote as you have in the past if you get emails to do this. If not, then make sure if you're still receiving this information or your ballots through the mail, keep an eye out for that. We do know we still have some people that do get all of their information and ballots by mail. So please keep an eye out. Next Wednesday on the 29th, you'll have the opportunity to meet all the candidates who are running for the 4 seats that are coming up for this election. It will give you the opportunity to hear from all of them and their responses and with questions that have been pre-prepared that they all have. And afterwards, it'll be time for you all for a meet and greet to ask your own questions and meet the candidates if you don't already know them. You'll be able to go on to Legacy Neighbors right now, and each of the candidates who are running, their names are there along with all their information which they submitted. So that'll give you an opportunity as well to get a little bit of background and a feel for them. So please make sure that you go there. Thank you. We have no unfinished business, so our first order of new business is going to be the building renovation bid review and analysis. Josh, do you want to?
So I figured we'd start. We have Jeff Powell and Ashley Perez from Powell Studios, and they've been working really hard for a long time on this project, and we've got to the point now where they've gone out for bids. So I wanted Jeff just to give an overview of the process and where we're at. And
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Jeff Powell, Powell Studio Architecture. Just
Closer to the mic.
oh, can you hear me? How about that? Better?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. So just to kind of give everybody a kind of a synopsis of the process of what we've done so far. On November 15th, we issued out an invitation to bid to 3 contractors. Those contractors were Schmid Construction, Lee Woods Construction, and GSB Construction. All 3 contractors are groups that we have worked with on numerous projects over the past 10 to 12 years and had great results. When asked who would recommend, these are our top 3 that we would find that would be a great fit for this renovation project for you. We ended up extending the bid during December because due to the holidays and to give you guys enough time once the bids came in to be able to go through your processes. So we received the bids on January 8th. And we were pleasantly surprised with the pricing. It was actually quite a bit less than what we've seen in the market recently. It was way under the estimate that I had put together. We ended up with a low bid of $1,928,685, and so with a contingency that we recommend that you keep in there for a renovation project of this size, it's $2,082,980. Lee Woods was second, and GSB was third. There was a tight spread between 1 and 2. There was less than $50,000, I believe, between the 2 of them. GSB was the highest, and that's not common. GSB was high at $2.4 million. So our recommendation we provided was, and after reviewing the schedule of values provided by each of the GCs and speaking with them after the bid, our recommendation was to Schmidt Construction obviously be as the apparent low bidder. So with that, I just wanted, in your packet, I've given you just a copy of all the submitted bids and the schedule of values there. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll go one by one. Frank, do you have any questions for Jeff? Or Ashley?
Sure. Also, Jeff, for the benefit of the people out here that came today, and unfortunately the ones at home cannot because of Channel 17, but the other noticeable difference with Schmid is they cut 3 months off of their projected conclusion, which would save us copious amounts of money in some of the ancillary expenses that we're going to have with this project.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something I should apologize I didn't mention. Schmidt Construction was low at 180 days. Lee Woods had 270, and GSB had 260 days. So they were very aggressive in their time of completion and construction. They're going to do it all at once. So that was another factor in that. So thank you for, I was remiss in bringing that up.
Mary Kay?
Get close. It's on. It's on.
It's on.
Are there any penalties for not completing on time included in the bid from Schmidt?
So you do not have liquidated damages as part of your contract. Usually, we don't necessarily, depending on the size of the project, what we're doing, we don't necessarily know if it's necessary. But all of these do include a performance and payment bond as part of the bid, and that's included in Schmidt Construction's proposal. All of them are holding their prices for 60 days to give you enough time to get through your process as well. So,
Todd?
I've got 3 pretty specific things. I noticed the Schmidt bid had $19,000 for shoring up the exterior walls. Is that a concern? I mean, I've just never really heard that, or is that?
No, we're not necessarily concerned with it, and we know that they've got an allowance in there for that, and that's for when we're infilling the outside. So I think that's why I kind of put it as a qualification and exclusion there.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a concern, and really shoring, if it's necessary, they'll do that to support it, and know we're doing shoring.
Okay. They all say they start within 14 days. So I'm assuming that doesn't mean big trucks pull up to our door in 14 days. That means they start the permitting process. I'm just curious, in general, how long from the date you sign a contract to a date that actual work begins?
So let me address permitting. So we are actually in with the city of Leesburg, currently under plan review. As of today, that's ongoing. We expect to get our first round of comments, if any, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably. They've taken a little bit longer than we anticipated, but that process is already ongoing. I believe that there are going to be some material lead times that are going to occur. So the first things that are probably going to happen is getting all of that stuff ordered, electrical gear, air, whatever we need for that, getting those submittal processes running and getting it established. So, I think that the answer, and I think that'll be something that you guys negotiate once you get to that point. But I think they'll be ready to start once you initiate it.
And then the thing I completely did not understand, because I'm an accountant, is there was something that said sell fill at windows and door bucks excluded.
Correct. So your existing windows that are included, normally what we would do is fill that with grout and concrete and take it all the way down to the footer. What they're saying is they're not going to go into the existing openings and fill those and do rebar. They're not going to, any new openings we're doing that's part of the design, but not on the existing.
Okay, great. That's all I had. Thank you.
Chris?
No specific questions, just thank you very much for getting us to this point in the process.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Barb?
Okay, I probably didn't hear the answers, but I want to just double check this. The dock is taking months and months to get our building permits. And you're saying you can get this building done in just a couple more weeks?
So we submitted to the city of Leesburg for permitting. This was not through Lake County on that. So we submitted to the city of Leesburg on the permit plans for this. we are anticipating going through that plan review process and responding to comments while you guys are kind of going through your processes. So ideally, your permit should be ready for the contractor to pick up once you're authorized to proceed.
Perfect.
Mhm.
If there's any hang up on that, once we sign the contract, they'll start within 14 days.
That's essentially it, yeah.
So if we sign the contract and the building permits are not ready yet, does that count in part of the 14
So
days?
since we submitted in December, we anticipate that we'll probably have the permit by February at the
Okay, but that doesn't answer my question.
I'm sorry, let me, how do I?
If we sign the contract and the building permit is not approved yet, does that count as the part of the 14 days until then?
No, it'll be 14 days from the time you give them a notice to proceed, which is an official document. That you
Okay,
provide
that's
with them.
different than when we sign the contract.
Correct.
That-
You'll give them a notice to proceed, and that'll be the part.
From the,
What they may do is initially, if you're not there and you've already given them a commitment, they will probably start some of the preliminary things of paperwork and working with us on submittals and all of the stuff there and getting stuff ordered, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things they can do up front in the
Okay.
meantime.
I also have concerns, and I know Josh has done, and Josh and Matt and all have done really a good job about what we're going to do with all the stuff that's in our buildings now while this construction is going on. And you said this is going to be done in 180 days. So do we have to actually take everything out of everywhere?
Mhm.
We do.
That's my plan. These will be
Yeah,
empty.
I mean, you've done I just wanted to double check. It just seems like, they could start here and we could move stuff around, like you do in a
No,
house when you're getting carpeting.
No, we're gonna pay somebody to come in, remove everything and store it for the whole duration of the project.
Yeah, you're great. Okay. I had another question, but I already forgot what it was. We'll have to-
Okay, come back.
Okay, the only question I have is, and there again is sort of back to the permits where they're holding their pricing. If we are delayed,
That was it.
that's what I figured. If we're delayed because we don't have the permits back, the prices still will be held. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe they will. Yeah, I believe they'll work with you on it. And we do have a contingency in there if there's any kind of adjustment. Right now there could be some adjustment for market conditions as we get down the road, but right now they're holding this price for you for 60 days.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's all I had. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes.
So, and I don't know when to ask this because I'm not sure how the course of this meeting is going to continue. And I don't want to, if this is too premature, we could talk about it later. But I haven't heard lately too much talk about project manager and where that's reflected, because we talked about that months ago. The other thing is that I know we have the lawyers looking at the contracts and everything, and that's fine. But one of my questions has been, what is this current status, and what is the current status of the building committee? And will the building committee, or at least Paul, because he's very familiar with these kind of contracts, he's done it for years, will he review this contract also in addition to the lawyer? And I did read somewhere in this that they said they're not going to start until March 4th because of the time they need to order all the materials. So
Well, they were saying that they couldn't start prior to that, and they
Yeah.
understand that it goes out to the community, and the vote and the results of that vote will be back on March 4th. So they
Right.
fully understand and know that when hopefully this passes and goes forward, they understand it'll be after March 4th. They were just letting us know they could not, because of prior obligations, start prior to that date if we had come to a decision and the vote prior to that date. With regards to the building committee, there had been no discussion with any of them reviewing it. That's why we have the attorney. That's why, this is just my opinion, and I'll revert to the rest of the board. That is the reason why we have Jeff and Ashley and their firm reviewing all this and the project and everything else that was submitted. I don't know if anybody else has anything, or Josh, if you want to comment.
I would suggest if we have questions for Powell specific, we do
Yeah.
that and then focus on the bid and then we can figure out the rest of that stuff after the fact.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Anybody else have anything for Jeff or Ashley? No? Well, we thank you all very much for being here. All the hard work and continued work I know that you'll be doing for us as this project goes on. And we're really excited and hopefully we can't wait to work with you and move forward on the whole project.
But
Thank you for coming.
We thank you. We appreciate the opportunity, and everybody stay warm as you can today. So.
Exactly. All right.
So,
If you're ready for
a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve Schmidt Construction as the contractor for the project, assuming it is approved by the community.
All right, any other further discussion? Seeing none, may have a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys, appreciate it. Step one.
Yeah.
Step one, yeah. So on to step two. We have our all wondrous treasurer who spent a lot of work on this, a lot of forethought and keeping us all straight. So Todd, passing it on to you.
Okay, so obviously, we've been thinking a lot about how this gets paid, how this gets funded. So I'm going to start with, when I started to look at this, I had four principles or four guiding rules I wanted to have. And the first I actually hate to say out loud because I hate the words, but one of the things is we do not fund this with a special assessment. And those are words I swore I would never say up here as being part of the board. But whatever we do, we have to be able to afford it within whatever funds we have now. The second is we don't want to drain our reserves down to a point where it will negatively impact them. We want to make sure we keep our reserves strong as we go through others. The third is we have to account for all the costs. Now, you just heard us approve a bid. That is not all the costs. Josh has a list of 12 to 15 items we need to do, something as simple as just storing all this stuff. We have to make sure all those costs are included in whatever we fund. So we're not just funding the bid of 1.928, we're funding the entire project cost. And my fourth rule was that we don't defer anything into 2026 or later. We don't go, well, I don't think that'll hit until here. We might not get to the landscaping until next year. We'll just include that in next year's budget. No, if it's an impact from the project, it gets paid and it gets funded now. So we figure out what we can live with and we sort of do it. All right, so enough on that. You have one of my favorite slides in the world, which is a page with a whole bunch of numbers, all right? These are the GL accounts where we have money stored. I'm going to walk through them one by one on a very brief basis, just so that you know what's up there. There are four columns. One is the reported balance as of the end of the year. This is out there on our website. The next is what I will call an adjusted balance. So we have made commitments for some of these accounts, so not all of what is reported on our financial statements is available. The third column is the maximum amount I would recommend for the project. And the fourth column is what is left over once it's done. So the first one's real simple. It's the space planning funds. Well, you know what? I think we could use the space planning funds on this type of project. This is exactly why we set those funds aside. The difference between the reported balance and the adjusted balance is we still owe Powell about $25,000 for work that they will continue to do for us. So I took that out of there because that's money we can't spend. So in my mind, we have $1,624,356 we can go ahead and spend on this. The next two accounts, the uncommitted project funds and the community capital improvement funds, are funds that you would think that we could spend on this. This is money the board over time has put away to do extra things for the community. This is not the money we live on. It's not part of our daily operating costs. So I said, let's just put all the uncommitted project funds there. But I did not do that with the community capital improvement. I get afraid that if we overcommit to the project, we will become what would commonly be called house poor, right? Right? We don't want to sit here next year and go, God, I'd like to spend $5,000 to do X, and go, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have it. So yes, we're going to spend a lot of money on this. I think so. I went back and I looked at the type of things we've spent out of our excess funds. And I think $200,000 would hold us well for years. So I think it gives us enough flexibility going forward, while still trying to commit to the building project. The reserves. So I'm always very cautious about our reserve funds. So our reserve funds are those funds that are put away to replace things we know are going to need to get done. So every 7 years, we need to resurface the bocce courts, and every so often we need to do the roads, right? That's what you're putting the money away for. It does not really improve the community, but it maintains the community. So as part of the reserve study, if you think of it this way, because it's how I think of it, it's like this huge spreadsheet. It's got like 150 items down. It's got the next 30 years across, and it says, when am I going to pay for this stuff? So when the roads section 3 gets done in 4 years, so there's a chunk of money in 4 years, then you do a little bit of math and you figure out how much you need to fund that. So within the reserve study, from 2024, 25, and 26, it says we should be spending about, I think it was $497,000 on the building, windows, some of the gym equipment. I mean, there's a whole list of items, and if you want to know what they are, they're actually in the board packet. They're in the little write-up I did on funding. So that says to me we can take $497,000 out of the reserve funds in order to pay for this. Again, you've had very conservative boards throughout the year. I'm very proud to be part of that. So I don't want to spend $497,000 out of reserves. I figured just take half of that. So it gives us a chance to strengthen our reserves a little bit more by adding an extra $250,000 back that we won't spend. And honestly, you heard me talk about the air conditioners for this building, and that was actually supposed to be a reserve item that we spent out of the operating account. So again, I think we're playing good with the reserves. So I'm thinking we take $250,000 out of the reserves, and we just leave the other $247,000 there. I don't talk that much at home, I guess. All right. So okay, so if anybody has a spare room, all right, so the next 3 accounts are accounts we do not touch, but I did want to at least go through them so that you knew that they were there. We have $60,000 in an insurance deductible account. So our main property insurance for the community has a $60,000 deductible. Years ago, the board put away money to say, if we had a disaster, we have money to cover the deductible too. So obviously we just don't touch that. The cable deferred money, this is a slightly longer talk. So 3 years ago, we signed a new cable contract with Optical Tel. As part of signing contracts, they give you free service, right? Sort of an incentive to sign with them. They gave us, I think it was over $500,000 worth of free service. So we looked at that and we said, well, we felt it was right to return it back to the community, but it's a 13-year contract. So we're returning 1/13 of that back each year. So when you look at the budget, there's actually a line item in there that says, here's your cable savings. It's worth about $3.50 a year, a month to each homeowner. So that was a commitment the board made. It makes a lot of sense that we take the savings from the cable contract and amortize it over for the life of the cable contract. So we just don't touch that. And then the retained earnings. So the retained earnings are excess of profit over expense over the years of the community. So our accountant says we should keep about 10% of our budgeted amount in retained earnings as sort of a hedge. Our finance guidelines sort of expanded on that because, again, we're a conservative group, and we said it needs to be within 10 to 15%. This is pretty close to 12% right now. So obviously we're not going to touch any of the reserve money for this. So when I look at this and I add up all the numbers, to me, we have available to spend on this. Not that you have to. If you can do it for less, great, right? But I would feel comfortable spending up to 2.726,292, and there was cents there, but I decided to round that off on the project. To me, that gives us the money we've put away to do this type of renovation while still maintaining our ability to spend and improve the community as we go forward. That's it.
By the way, our casino is open for right now if you need a room to stay.
People signed up.
Okay. Oh, you're not working either.
Ed DiGiovanni, you're first.
Go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Ed DiGiovanni, River Edge Lane. I had three topics, but one was attendance, but I think that's unnecessary now. I was a little concerned about us proceeding with Channel 17 down. And yeah, I would estimate we got about 130, 140 folks here. And there would have been more tuned in. We do need a minimum of 300 votes, 30% of our complement here, in order to pass the ultimate motion. But hearing about the two town halls, I think we're fine there. Number two, I just wanted to speak in support of what we're doing, strong support, and particularly for the newer folks that we have here. I don't have to convince you all, but a lot of the newer folks, they don't know certain things, and I hope it comes out repeatedly how our facilities are more than 25 years old, how half of this project is actually, many people may not know it, is actually free to us.
That's right.
We have that more than $1 million that we've had and saving that we got from a previous cable company contract, so that we're actually not funding the whole thing ourselves. Half of it is being paid for from a windfall we got from a previous cable company contract. We got to compete and compare with our neighbors,
We don't.
the neighboring communities, and you all know that the villages are
We do not.
growing around us, and some of the other communities, even the ones that have been pre-existing, people who come in to buy here, they look at the facilities here and other places, and it frankly looks better at other places.
Here we go.
And for those who, for no other reason, you need to think about resale value if you're not going to sell your home and go back where you came from or go to assisted living or whatever, your heirs are going to have to sell your home. Unless they decide to stay. But resale value is very important to think about too. The last topic I had in mind, I know Todd. A lot of us know Todd. We know him, we love him, we trust him. What he just put forth to us is very reasonable and sound. The question I had is a question, I don't know. You know better than I do. I'd hate for everything to fall on Todd alone if something goes wrong. And the question I raise is, do we need to have an outside firm, an outside accountant, to kind of conduct a little review, risk management on this? I want to make sure that Todd is protected here. That's my motivation.
So, Ed? if it's all right.
Yeah.
So I went through this with the finance committee this week. So as much as I appreciate all of your kind words, it is not just me. There's a bunch of very able, willing, and helpful financial folks in the community. So I myself don't feel that's I don't feel that's necessary. So,
Great.
But thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Great, thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Ed. Bill Burns is next.
While Bill's coming up, Ed, just so you know, this is being recorded and people can look at this and watch it again. So it's out there. Unfortunately, yes.
You didn't tell me that. Okay, recorded.
Hi, I'm Bill Burns. I'm also a neighbor. I live over in Old English Court. I've lived here for 3 years and love it. Before I start, and I will try not to be too long, I'd like to thank the board for all the work they've done in preparing to put this before the community, because I think that's what we're doing today. We're really not approving this, we're putting it forward to the community for their consideration. I would like to say that I'm glad to hear that we're going to have 2 meetings to discuss this before it comes to a vote. And so that changed a little bit of the tenor of what I was going to talk about today. But given that, what I would like to see in those meetings, if we could, I think it's important to go back at least one more time, and maybe just for the new people, but for some of us that have been here for a while, and for whatever reason didn't pay attention, don't know what's going on here, spent too much time at the doctor, whatever it is. We need to really understand what we're doing here, why we're doing it, why we're going to do it in this manner. There's various ways to do this. It looks like this proposal is to bite off a big chunk and do it all at once. There's other methods of doing that. You could do these projects piecemeal, maybe not with the same effect, but I think we need an explanation or discussion as to why we're doing it the way we're doing it. Given that, we ought to know also for $2+ million at a minimum, what exactly are we really going to be getting that's different from what we have now? Very clearly, and I think you could do that maybe on 1 or 2 sheets of paper and say, this is what's different when we come away from this. And here's what we got for $2 million. Maybe we have 100 more square feet of room. I don't know, 1,000, 5,000. At what cost? We're asking people here to shut down this whole facility and all that it offers us for a minimum of 6 months. And one of the side questions I would ask is, why is the bid of the contractor that we have now, I'm sure there's good reason for it, 3 months less than the other 2 contractors? Why is he so much better and sees so much easier task than the other 2 contractors that he's willing to sign up for 6 months rather than 9 months? I'd like to understand that a little bit. I'd like to understand a little bit more about what was in the bid process. What was the discerning factors other than cost? Although we see a couple of them very close actually to the contractors. What made the difference? What's the criteria for the recommendation? Why do we think this contractor who's telling us that it's gonna take 3 months less, 6 months, still a long time? Those times are minimum times. Your facility will be essentially done here. Or if not, how are we gonna do this? Maybe we don't have to close down everything as the project, although I think that's what the contractor is saying. So we'd like to understand, what is it that will continue, if anything, for those minimum 6 months? What will not? Okay, so the other thing is, I've had experience in this area too for a long time, managing facility contracts. There's quite a bit of risk involved in all of these. This is not a large project, but by our standards, it is. It's $2 million in a community of 1,000 people. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. And that's at a minimum. With any project of this type, there is a huge amount of risk associated with it. So getting to Ed's point, I think we do need a risk assessment. A risk assessment that says, what is it that, because as I look at the bids, by the way, as just an aside here, as I look at the bids, I see that there's a lot in those bids that say we are not going to do this. There's not a whole lot of saying what they're going to do, although that's a big thing. They're going to do the project. I get it. Okay. But there's a lot of things that we are not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're not responsible for this. Well, that means that probably we are. And if we are, what is the cost of that? And the treasurer, Todd, alluded to some of that, that we just talked about. But I think we need to understand that in full. In general sense, and with these projects, there is a large amount of risk. There's risk of, as the contractor tells you, labor costs might increase, material costs might increase. We might find this, we might find that.
Right, if you could, because we do have other speakers, and I appreciate that, but if you could kind of
Sure.
wrap it up just a little bit,
Sure.
and then we'll maybe.
Yeah, my wife tells me that too. I will just say, you need a risk assessment. You also need to know, we need to know who's going to manage this project. How are they going, if it's passed, how are they going to do that on a day-to-day basis? How are we going to delegate as a community the responsibility to that person to manage it for us? I want to know how, and I think the rest of the folks should want to know, how are you going to direct this project and make sure on a cost, technical, and schedule performance basis that this contract comes in on time, under cost, with all the things you expected from it? If we don't have someone, a focal point, who is designated with that responsibility, I guarantee you this project will fail. It'll fail to the point where we will all be at risk in here for perhaps much more money than is bid for or is thought to be going to cost for this program.
Thanks, Bill.
So that's what I would like to see at the meeting. Okay?
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
That's it for before, but just so everybody understands, part of the contract that you signed with Powell is that has included project management stuff, and we also have the performance bonds. So there are certain things that they're required to do at certain timelines based on what Powell has written into the building specifications. And a lot of people, it wasn't part of this packet, but when you, on the website, we have the building expansion 2024. It has the actual bid documents that the contractors used to make a decision on what the cost would be for the project. So it has all the specifications for timelines, specific materials that would be used, and all of that was put together by the board and several committees over the last 2 years. The building committee was involved, and they actually put together a risk assessment document that we still have.
Yeah.
It outlines a lot of these risks and things that we need to watch out for. They went through the plans at each step of the way, and then all the specific materials that were used were all basically recommended by the committees, both the building and the interior design and decorating committee. So there has been a lot that's gone in the back end of this. And I'll explain more of that, and the board will explain more of that when we get to the town halls.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. And I know Chris and I just really want to make sure you fully understand, like you just mentioned, the building committee was so instrumental in this. And believe me when I tell you, they went over every single thing and were very, very conscientious with their risk assessments. I know Frank, myself, Dave Leakley, Chris, a lot of us sat in on those meetings. And I think we all can attest to the amount of time and energy that went into that and with their risk assessments that they did before we got to this point, before we even went further with this whole project. So, all right.
So we do have like 3 other people, but they sign
Sure.
up after you guys get to done with your discussion and make a motion. But before you vote, I have 3 people that want to speak.
All right, not a problem. I'm going to start over this way. Barb, do you have any comments or anything else you want to interject?
So you voted on identifying which contract, but now we have to establish a budget. How much are we going to spend?
Yeah.
We have to, because that's the dollar amount that we need to ask the community to approve.
Oh, I got lost there for a minute. No, I think Todd explained it very well. He's been feeding paperwork to the board practically daily this month, so we could understand where we are at with the budget, with the renovation project, with things that have been in the budget for a while. He's done a fantastic job of communicating. The finance committee has also been wonderful about understanding what's going on and seeing the bigger picture. So I totally agree with what Todd has presented to us through the finance committee.
Hey, Chris?
Saturday, I went to Kennedy Space Center. Had some family down here. And one of the things we went through was to go see the Atlantis space shuttle. And for those of you who've been to the Kennedy Space Center, they tell the whole story of how they got the space shuttle. And they started the process in 1969 and took them until 1981, 12 years. And I think it hit me Saturday. What you people have done, and I say you people because it's been the community, it's been the committees. There's been a lot of time spent, questions asked, and Bill, thank you very much. Not to put what you said aside, but these committees beat everything up. Left, right, up, down, go back, do it again. And we appreciate that. You gave us all this information, and it's taken a while, not quite 12 years. But I just want to say thank you to all that have had a hand in this. And going forward, hopefully, yeah, we're finally there. We're getting down to the point of, do you agree with what we're telling you? And can you vote yes for it? And yeah, Todd, thank you very much, and the finance committee too. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Barbara and Chris have said. And I was also there at the finance committee meeting on Monday. And they all went through it. Todd presented the same information here. And at the end of that meeting, the finance committee concurred with Todd. So Todd, I know you have a couple other comments.
So there's one other choice the board still needs to make. We've decided on the contractor. We've gone through the list that Josh has provided of all those outside costs that he estimated at $467,000. So the one last choice we need to make now, when the bids came in, the bidders included a contingency amount of 8%. In their minds, and I heard Pal talk about this just a little bit ago, he's thinking an 8 or 10% contingency is probably okay for this type of project. I get a little bit concerned about that. If we miss this by $1, the theory says we got to go back out to the community and ask again. So I think we want to be somewhat conservative with the amount, but we need to realize that if we're a little bit wrong, our margin of error is small. I'm more in favor of going with a 15% contingency just on the bid amount, not on what Josh has put forward, because we've worked with Josh a lot in the past, and our normal board rules would say, what he gives us is sort of what we spend. So I'm thinking we go with a contingency of about 15%, which for the project itself would be $289,302. So to me, that would raise. So you have the bid of $1,928,685. You got the what I'll call the CAM costs of $467,000. If you put a contingency on there of $289,302, you're going to come up with a total project cost of $2,685,000. To me, that's what I would recommend that we use as the amount to frame the project costs.
Okay, Mary Kay? Great. And last but not least, Frank.
Yeah, it's no surprise I have a few things to say. Just for the benefit of the folks that haven't been here as long, and I'll try to keep this very quick. I moved here 7 years ago. Shortly after, Todd, who was president at the time of the board, canvassed the community for people who were knowledgeable in construction to put forth a desire to work on a new committee called the Building Committee. I was one of 4 or 5 of the other people. We made a building committee. They had a vast array of knowledge between them, and that building committee worked so hard picking the right architect, looking over plans. There was a few changes in goals back then, and it's gotten us today. Those plans have been worked. The building committee worked hours and hours and hours on fine-tuning these plans so we wouldn't have change orders and things like that. So all I'm saying is that, once I was on the building committee, then once I got picked on the board, I had to jump off the building committee, and I was their liaison for a number of years. So a lot of work's gone into this, and the newer people might not know about that. We've had this bunch of money from the cable that we set aside for space planning, and with the ravages of inflation, that's been like an ice cube slowly melting, and we don't want it to melt anymore. You heard the architect say that he was very surprised at the bid amounts, and it looked like a good deal. I also wanted to say that a lot of the board went to a meeting yesterday with other HOA committees on other communities. And they were shocked that basically, I'm not a real numbers guy, but we have over $5 million in legacy for 999 houses. To put that in context, that is very high amount. And to put it in context, the plantation, who has just under 3,000 houses, they're basically 3 times bigger than we are, with a lot more maintenance costs with some of their buildings they have. They have they barely have 2.5 million. Okay, so we are the envy of a lot of other communities, but money's only good if you do something with it. Since I can't read my writing, I guess I'll stop there.
All right, Mary Kay.
So the only thing I would like to remind everybody is if you have not signed up for electronic voting, please do so before we go out to ask you for money and before we go out to elect new officers. You can go to the CAM office and fill out the appropriate paperwork. Can they do that online as well, Josh? No, so you need to go to the CAM. If you have not registered for online voting, please do so. It will make this process so much easier for everybody.
Thank you. Good point. Todd, anything left?
And just
Yep,
one more
great.
thing, the contingency amount that we're voting on next, everybody needs to understand that that is not automatically spent. That's just extra set aside for unforeseen contingencies, cost overruns, things like that. So
Yeah, and every one of those items, like let's take landscaping, for example, in that contingency list, we have about $40,000 listed for landscaping. So we're obviously going to get proposals on what that money would get us, and you can scrutinize those bids at that time, and that's where most of the cost savings will probably come, because the contractor's bid is going to be what it is. We're going to be paying that in installments.
Mhm.
But how much we spend on landscaping, how much we spend on chairs, whether we spend money on chairs, all that stuff is still up to the board to decide after we get the approval for the funds. And like you guys always do, you scrutinize every bid, and history's shown you've been pretty frugal with the money. So.
Okay, very good. Is there any other discussion?
So Josh, do we make a motion and then have the folks come up? All right, then I would like to make a motion to have a community vote to approve spending up to $2,685,000 to renovate the building and all the associated costs.
I'll second it. Oh, Mary Kay.
I'll second.
Okay. Colleen Campbell.
Good morning. I'm Colleen Campbell, Discover Court. Todd, thank you ever so much for the incredible analysis that you give, and you always do that.
Thank you.
Every time I've come to a meeting, you have done an incredible, impeccable job. So thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
And with that being said, questions for you. So you've just voted on a $2,685,000 budget for this building and including all auxiliary expenses, correct?
Correct.
And including overrides, correct?
Yes. What that says is we're asking the community for that amount of money. And that's what we have to live with. And if we need any more I don't even want to go there, but we can't do it ourselves. At that point, we would have to come back.
Question in regard to that. That money is totally incorporated into the money we already have in our monies, in our pockets.
We literally have the cash in the bank.
Okay, I just want to make that clear because you said earlier you did not want to assess anybody in this community for any amount of money. Right. Is that correct?
A special assessment, yeah.
No special assessment.
No.
I don't want to see a special assessment.
Please do not make me say those words again.
I will not. That's why I'm trying to clarify that now,
Yes.
so that we do not see that.
No.
And I
No.
know you are diligent, and I
No.
know you do an incredible job, and that is what I'm very much counting on.
There is not one person on this board that would support that.
Yeah.
I would hope not. Another question for you. Have you, going forward, come to an analysis as what the impact is going to be on our going forward HOA? Meaning, you've got maintenance, you've got air and heat, you've got water, you've got increases in maintaining this new building, okay? I want to know. And then the insurance on this new building is going to cost more. What is it going to do to our HOA?
So I'm going to have to fudge on insurance. I don't know.
It'll
wait.
actually go down.
It will go down.
Well, then why do not we put that forward and let the community know that, because that can also sway your votes on the ultimate goal of this, knowing that we have the funds to do this, one. Two, there are a lot of people within this community that are living on a very limited budget, and there are a lot of people who are living on such a limited budget that they can't even paint their houses. Do you know that? Are you aware of that?
I am not personally aware
Okay,
of that.
I know.
But I am, as is the board. We know some folks are tight, and we want
Very
to
tight.
respect that.
Very tight. And we have a wonderful community as it stands now. It's a beautiful community. It's a nature community. We are not the villages. And we are not competing with the villages. We should not compete with it. We'll never make it if we did, first of all. I love our community as it is. If we go forward we have to recognize that we must take care of every single person within this community. We must recognize them, who they are, what they are, and take care of our community as we should take care of everybody. And if we don't, it's not fair to the people that are living here. It isn't.
Which is why when I started out, right, the goal is we're gonna set a budget, we're gonna live within that budget, we'll have the cash already on hand for that budget. We're not trying to defer any expenses into next year. Your question on what next year's dues are like, our insurance bid came in 20 grand lower than we expected this year. So I'm thinking it's gonna be high, so I don't wanna say our insurance is gonna be lower next year.
Oh, I wouldn't expect it to be low.
Yeah.
No way in a heartbeat.
No, and as far as the building and the extra impact to the HOA, we're not significantly making it larger. All of the stuff will be new. We should have more efficient air and heat and all of that stuff.
That's only temporary.
But the question was, did I see the building costs, the building renovation increase our ongoing costs? And no,
Sure, of course.
And no, I don't.
And just real quick to that, and I'm sure this is probably where Frank's going to jump in and say, when you're looking at more energy efficient windows, when we had the last storm, and I know that Josh can attest to this, when we had someone come in and look to see if there was any damage to the building and so forth, one of the first things I said was these windows need to be replaced. There's more energy efficient windows out there. It's going to keep the structure of the buildings more sound. And, you know, by replacing the ACs, we're going to be seeing a savings there as well because of the fact they're way more energy efficient.
I know, I've done that with my own
Yeah.
home. I replaced
Yeah.
windows, for 150 mile an hour Miami-Dade, okay? It cost me $9,000 to do it, okay? So I do understand the effect of that. Yes, okay. So all overrides,
We're way past our 3 minutes.
Yeah, so, yeah.
A lot of this back and forth.
Right,
Fine,
yeah,
done.
yeah.
Town halls.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and we will be having the town hall, so all this will be addressed. Please make sure that you do attend that because we can go into it further and you can ask all the questions at that time. Next, who else do we have? Anyone?
Doug Cox, please.
Josh, I don't need to talk. Everything's been answered for me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lori.
All right, perfect. So there is a motion and a second on the floor that we approve the amount of $2,685,000 for the building project. If there's no other discussion, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next order of business will be confirmation of new committee members. All the way to the back. All the way to the back. We got a lot of papers here. There's a lot of trees that died over this particular, trust me. Okay, so the first resident volunteer form is from Maureen Willard. And she has submitted her application to become part of the ARC. Yeah, all right, that's what I was going to do. And the other one was Laurie Ducati, and that is for sports and fitness. And Stephen Farrington for E&C committee. Is there a motion to accept all the volunteers for the respective committees?
I'll make that motion that we accept all 3 volunteers to the individual committees.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And Mary Kay, last but not least, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 11:04 a.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Thank you all so much for coming out. Appreciate it.
And don't forget, next Thursday, we got a crooner here. Next Thursday, 6 p.m.
And for those who want to go somewhere Next door, Highland Lakes is having a health fair at this time, so you might want to run over next door and pick up some goodies from a lot of vendors. And also, we'll be there selling stamps if we need stamps.
No. What's going on?
To have a community vote to approve spending up to $2,685,000 to renovate the building and all the associated costs.
I'll second it. Oh, barricade.
Okay. Colleen Campbell.
Good morning. I'm Colleen Campbell, Discover Court. Todd, thank you ever so much for the incredible analysis that you give, and you always do that.
Thank you.
Every time I've come to a meeting, you have done an incredible, impeccable job. So thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
And with that being said, questions for you. So you've just voted on a $2,685,000 budget for this building and including all auxiliary expenses, correct?
Correct.
And including overrides, correct?
Yes. What that says is we're asking the community for that amount of money. And that's what we have to live with. And if we need any more I don't even want to go there, but we can't do it ourselves. At that point, we would have to come back.
Question in regard to that. That money is totally incorporated into the money we already have in our monies, in our pockets.
We literally have the cash in the bank.
Okay, I just want to make that clear because you said earlier you did not want to assess anybody in this community for any amount of money. Right. Is that correct?
Special assessment, yeah.
No special assessment.
No.
I don't want to see a special assessment.
Please do not make me say those words again.
I will not. That's why I'm trying to clarify that now, so that we do not see that. And I know you are diligent, and I know you do an incredible job, and that is what I'm very much counting on.
There is not one person on this board that would support that.
Yeah.
I would hope not. Another question for you. Have you, going forward, come to an analysis as what the impact is going to be on our going forward HOA? Meaning, you've got maintenance, you've got air and heat, you've got water, you've got increases in maintaining this new building, okay? I want to know. And then the insurance on this new building is going to cost more. What is it going to do to our HOA?
So I'm going to have to fudge on insurance. I don't know.
Why don't we
It'll
wait?
actually go down.
It will go down.
Well, then why do not we put that forward and let the community know that, because that can also sway your votes on the ultimate goal of this, knowing that we have the funds to do this, one. Two, there are a lot of people within this community that are living on a very limited budget, and there are a lot of people who are living on such a limited budget that they can't even paint their houses. Do you know that? Are you aware of that?
I am not personally aware
Okay,
of that,
I know.
but I am, as is the board. We know some folks are tight, and we want
Very
to
tight.
respect that.
Very tight. And we have a wonderful community as it stands now. It's a beautiful community. It's a nature community. We are not the villages. And we are not competing with the villages. We should not compete with it. We'll never make it if we did, first of all. I love our community as it is. If we go forward this, we have to recognize that we must take care of every single person within this community. We must recognize them, who they are, what they are, and take care of our community as we should take care of everybody. And if we don't, it's not fair to the people that are living here. It isn't.
Which is why when I started out, right, the goal is We're gonna set a budget, we're gonna live within that budget, we'll have the cash already on hand for that budget. We're not trying to defer any expenses into next year. Your question on what next year's dues are like, our insurance bid came in 20 grand lower than we expected this year. So I'm thinking it's gonna be high, so I don't wanna say our insurance is gonna be lower next year.
Oh, I wouldn't expect it to be low, no
Yeah.
way in a heartbeat.
No, and as far as the building and the extra impact to the HOA, we're not significantly making it larger. All of the stuff will be new. We should have more efficient air and heat and all of that stuff.
That's only temporary.
But the question was, did I see the building costs, the building renovation increase our ongoing costs? And no,
Sure, of course.
and no, I don't.
Okay.
And just real quick to that, and I'm sure this is probably where Frank's gonna jump in and say, when you're looking at more energy efficient windows, when we had the last storm, and I know that Josh can attest to this, when we had someone come in and look to see if there was any damage to the building and so forth, one of the first things I said was these windows need to be replaced. There's more energy efficient windows out there. It's gonna keep the structure of the buildings more sound. And, you know, by replacing the ACs, we're gonna be seeing a savings there as well because of the fact they're way more energy efficient.
I know, I've done that with my own
Yeah.
home. I replaced
Yeah.
windows, okay, for 150 mile an hour Miami-Dade, okay? It cost me $9,000 to do it. Okay, so I do understand the effect of that. Yes, okay. So all overrides,
We're way past our 3 minutes.
Yeah, so, yeah,
A lot of this back and forth.
right,
Fine,
yeah,
done.
yeah.
Town halls.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and we will be having the town hall, so all this will be addressed. Please make sure that you do attend that because we can go into it further and you can ask all the questions at that time. Next, who else do we have? Anyone?
Doug Cox, please.
Josh, I don't need to talk, everything's been answered for me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lori.
All right, perfect. So there is a motion and a second on the floor that we approve the amount of $2,685,000 for the building project. If there's no other discussion, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next order of business will be confirmation of new committee members. All the way to the back. All the way to the back. We got a lot of papers here. There's a lot of trees that died over this particular, trust me. Okay, so the first resident volunteer form is from Maureen Willard. And she has submitted her application to become part of the ARC. Yeah. Yeah, all right, that's what I was gonna do. And the other one was Laurie Ducati, and that is for sports and fitness. And Stephen Farrington for E&C committee. Is there a motion to accept all the volunteers for the respective committees?
I'll make that motion that we accept all 3 volunteers to the individual committees.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And Mary Kay, last but not least, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 11:04 a.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Thank you all so much for coming out. Appreciate it.
And don't forget, next Thursday, we got a crooner here. Next Thursday, 6 p.m.
And for those who want to go somewhere, next door, Highland Lakes is having a health fair at this time, so you might want to run over next door and pick up some goodies from a lot of vendors. And also, we'll be there selling stamps, if you need stamps.